Yes. Well, it was on time, not late. You are all right, thank you. So welcome, everyone. This is a workshop. And the purpose is to work in partnership with our new superintendent principal to develop goals and objectives for this year. And anything else that she would like to include in that, which seems like I heard something maybe about some budget ideas or something like that, so. Do you have anything you want us to have in front of us, Kelly, or are we just gonna start taking some notes?
I mean, I thought. I have ideas, but I really would like to hear maybe some direction from the board before I just kind of launch into what I was thinking. In case I'm way off in left field. I'm sure that you guys have priorities and things like that. I'm not sure if there is a form, like an evaluation form that you're accustomed to using, that you like to use.
There is a evaluation process and form that WASDA puts out.
Okay,
But when you look at it, we can't begin to complete it because it's all about what we've experienced, and what we know. So we really need to start with some basics. Now, we have two things that are a foundation, but we can't begin to list all those things in goals and objectives, but the foundation is the job description. And then the procedures for our policies.
one of the things that has come up on several superintendent meetings is the superintendent evaluation. Many superintendents are looking for an updated version, so I'll throw that out there in case you wanted a newer one as well. So
Well, I know there is one out there and it's multiple pages. They're usually, and also a part of that is, evaluating how we work together, how we meet your needs and what we might not be providing to you guidance. And then how you might be meeting or not meeting our needs. And if you look at I did bring the basics of the superintendent is the procedures and the meetings. That's the basic of the responsibilities of the superintendent. When you look at the RCW. Now, when it gets down to principal, there's several pages of a job description there. And from what I remember, and so maybe get the board thinking and responding, is that we experienced some significant issues last year in student learning. And we weren't happy with any of the things that we heard in response to our expression of concern. And so that's one area that I think is real important. And I know, Bill, you were very interested in being able to observe classrooms. And we were wanting more information than just a standard pie chart, because we wanted more detail about where the problem was. And then the other thing was in relationships. We had several complaints, significant issues in relationships throughout the entire district. So those are the two things I remember that from last year that we were struggling with. I do know we have quite a few policies that are current. Maybe the fact that they're not current isn't a big deal. It's policies we may have never referred to in the last several years. But there were a few policy things that I believe that we now have gotten cleaned up or cleared up or we're finalizing. Who are we missing? Keith.
he's on his way.
Oh, okay. It just dawned on me, there's not a face here. I'm not seeing all the faces.
Well, the first, I guess the first like overarching theme that addresses some of that, um, I'd like to have the board consider as one of the major goals is to implement the MTSS framework that Washington State has asked schools to implement. MTSS is the multi-tiered systems of support. MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. And what that is it is an academic framework that allows for classroom teachers to provide grade level instruction to all students. And then using data and assessments to determine which students need additional support and to make sure that those students get more academic support. And in doing that, that allows us to really be able to identify students who should be academically receiving special education services as well, and not over-identifying special education, like academic special education and behavior and social emotional learning. Right now, we are working very hard to begin that process. I think it is a absolutely vital component to being successful academically overall for our students and behaviorally and social emotional learning in the school. It provides a very clear system of making sure that everybody gets what they need and what they deserve, both academically and behaviorally. So that would be one of the things that I would really like to roll out this year and be held accountable to.
So what do you mean by over identifying?
So as far as like special education, so it's in order to determine if a student really has a learning disability, there are a lot of things that need to be in place. And one of them is a solid core instruction. One thing that can happen is a student can fall significantly behind academically, and it can be because of lack of instruction. That's hard to know
Okay,
if
so
there isn't a good,
I see what you're saying by over identifying.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you haven't gone up the ladder,
Mhm.
then, you've skipped
Right, so let's say
some basics.
a student is entering fifth grade and they haven't had solid instruction for several years. They may look like they're behind,
But they're not.
but they're not. They haven't had access to instruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Did the first quarter, did they do the star 65?
We
Test?
did a
360.
we did a different diagnostic. Same concept, different test. Yeah. And so that's actually part of my report today is to talk about the results.
The one thing the board did was, Jennifer and, within the district, worked together and identified the iReady reading program, and the board approved that. And I believe that's all fully implemented now.
The map,
Oh,
the
the
map,
map, the map.
yeah. Reading is hopefully next.
Okay,
Reading
reading is next. Okay, we did that.
Yeah, we're using the iReady mathematics right now, and that comes with a diagnostic and it comes with intervention built into it so that students we can use the MTSS framework with iReady math. If we decide to go forward with reading in the future, it would be the same. It's kind of built in.
So this is a test year, to see whether we, since it's new to us and it's new. Yeah, it sounded like that we were gonna determine at some point.
So we have MTSS.
Teachers.
I think from my perspective, having real clear definitions of what success looks like. So that you know what to work towards, we know what to evaluate towards, that we're all on the same page, like, if this is the case, that is success. And, I don't think it's fair to make that, there's still so many unknowns, it's hard to make that just test scores or anything along those lines in such a small population base.
And that's why I think implementing the MTSS framework would be a great goal for the year. Because we piloting a new math curriculum, having 2 new teachers. Not really having a ELA curriculum. Test scores are not a great measurement,
No,
right? So as far as like,
they're important,
They're important.
they're an important metric for
Yes.
us to be able to like adjust behavior, but they're not a great evaluation at this point.
but not necessarily within 1 year.
Sure.
You have to look at an overall trend, right? But in order to evaluate my performance within 1 year, one thing that we can look at concrete is actually creating a system, creating a framework. So we're building MTSS from the ground up. So right now, we don't have referral forms. We're building those. We are just starting the MTSS committee, right? So teachers coming into this year, didn't have a process for what do I do when I have a student who is struggling with, and then fill in the blank. What do I do when I have a student who I've exhausted all of my skills and I can't get them to the next level? Like, there is no current process for that, and that's what MTSS is for. So if I can come to the board at the end of the year and say, this is what MTSS looks like. This is the referral form. This is, how we do a 6-week cycle of data, and like really concrete show that we're using data informed decisions. I think that is something that there can be actual evidence to see that we've made progress.
And I think that one of the things we probably would want to know, so within the first 60 or 90 days, we need to know what kind of resources you are lacking or that you identify you need. Since you're just getting started, you might not know that yet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things the board can do is make sure that you have the resources to be successful in your goal. I do know that the assignment of paras kind of gets changed all the time depending on the needs of students, and so. But are you feeling good with the way it is now that we're getting positioned with staff support to be able to do implementation?
Yeah, ESD decided that they would hire a special education para for Mill A, which freed up our para hours to really go to where we need them to support students. And so
Is that separate from MTSS, or is that part of your MTSS?
it is part of our MTSS.
Okay.
And so embedded in MTSS is like the tiered process. So tier 1 is like core instruction, like the instruction that every student would get at grade level. Tier 2 is that additional instruction, and then tier 3 is special education services. So ESD hired a para to do that tier 3 special education, which means that our paras can do tier 1 and tier 2, which is really what they should be doing, mostly tier 2. And then also supporting tier 1 on occasion, which means that our students are going to be getting the instruction from their classroom teachers and then additional instruction from the paras. And that's really what para educators should be getting used to do. And now we have their hours back to do that.
So what about you? What resources do you need to be successful in building this, to support you in
Yeah.
making this happen?
Thankfully, a lot of it is, because the state is really focused on it, a lot of it is already happening. ESD has, several trainings that are ongoing, that I'm participating in. I've got Amy signed up for some as well. So we're really receiving a lot of that, already by partnering with ESD. So I think that it's available for us already. And I just need to continue to take advantage of it. So it just might be some time off campus.
So what about the other end of the scale? Does MTSS have guidance on helping highly capable students?
Mm-hmm.
And do we have options for meeting that need?
It's really embedded in that. It's really a meet every student where they are and then provide them instruction. Yeah. So that would fall more into the, like the tier one or the core instruction, and that would fall on to like the classroom teachers, which would come back on me as the instructional leader of the school. So that would be what I would be working with the teachers on, where we would identify students who are above grade level, and then we would talk about what extensions we're offering them. How do we extend? What services can we offer them to make sure that they're challenged and that they're not being limited on what they're being instructed on? And so that's one of the great things about the iReady program that we're piloting, is that it has that built, those extensions built in. It has options for the teachers to use already there.
So if we don't have a, and I'll say uniform, but that's probably not the right word, program for, the education in the area of reading, are we can MTSS help us with reading too? Because we don't have, are we thinking about iReady reading or?
Well, MTSS is really just like a framework. So think of it as like, literally it's the 2x4s that like, right, it's not the meat, it's just the framework upon which all the other systems.
Okay, okay, so parents can still, teachers can fill out the same form and say, you know, I have these students with this issue in reading, or those students, so we can still do it for reading. It might not be as helpful if we're comparing classrooms, if they're not using the same process, but reading instruction.
Right, but we would be, yes, and also though, we would look at like within the classroom to like peers, like, right, how well is that student doing in comparison to their
Okay.
peers who are receiving the same instruction?
Okay,
So we have a little bit of a hiccup since we have one teacher that's just temporary this year. So this process is gonna be starting over again for a teacher next year.
Erica's actually been coming in and volunteering her time, because she's really into.
Oh, great.
MTSS was actually something she's really into,
Okay,
and so she's
Good
been
to
coming in
hear.
and volunteering her time, and her and I have been meeting and talking about it. And so if she decides to come back, she'll be able to get right up to speed on
okay.
exactly where we're at in the
Good to know.
process. And so really, the nice thing about the MTSS framework is that whatever curriculum we go with, whatever teacher steps in, it really is, it's a roadmap of how we do things. Everything is built upon it, right? It gives us a framework. So when a teacher says, I'm struggling to help this student, then we say, this is the process. Like, right, we say, okay, so for 6 weeks, collect data on this, right? Try this, collect data, we'll get together, we'll brainstorm, we'll come up with an idea. We'll figure out what the miss is, like, is the student, if it's reading, we'll figure out what do we need to test. Is it fluency? Is it phonics? Is it phonemic awareness? Is it comprehension? And then we'll target that skill. And then we'll look and test 6 weeks later, we'll see what progress we made. If it's working, you keep going, right? If it's not working, you adjust. It's just a framework to like make sure you're making good decisions. If a student is struggling behaviorally, then you sit down and you brainstorm, like, what's happening? Are they seeking attention? Are they task avoiding? Are they like, what's the cause of the behavior? And then brainstorm, like, how can we support this student in like getting on task? And so then you come up with ideas of what to try, and then you track it. Like, are they being more successful? And then you do a cycle, and if it's working, then great, you keep going, you build upon it. and you maybe address the next issue. It just gives you really concrete ways to deal with things that can feel really abstract.
Just 6 weeks. That sounds like, it kind of sounds like a lot because it's a 1/6 of the school year for them.
And
And
it
then once you determine what their needs are. And then you have to formulate, and so now we're talking another weeks, you know. I mean, it sounds good, but it seems like a lot of a year.
It is, and the reason it's a 6-week cycle is to prevent outlying data points. Because if you do a shorter period of time and you have a spike or a dip, it changes your trend line, it changes the trajectory, right? So
Is that like if a student is sick or has something else going on that would influence behavior or scores or learning?
So try not to overreact to a temporal situation.
exactly. And if they are a student who does have, if they do learn differently and they do have, like if they are a student who ultimately is going to be identified as special education needs, there's a high likelihood that they will have extreme peaks and valleys because that's often something that comes with a learning disability. So that's part of the data tracking that you'll see over a longer period of time.
And so I can see the need for longer than, yes.
So this 6-week process, has that already started on any of the kids or?
Yep, we've been doing it already. It helped us with, one student in particular. Really make sure that we had some good, solid information to be able to make some really well-informed decisions.
So. When you say we'll have MTSS implemented, are you saying we'll have like our initial implementation done, or are you saying like we'll be fully fluent and people will be hitting their stride, we won't?
I would say that success in 1 year would mean that we would have a process.
Yeah.
Right? We would have a way for educators to make referrals. We would have a committee up and running to review student data. We would be able to run intervention cycles in academics and behavior and attendance. If we can accomplish those 3 things with fidelity in the year of implementation, I would think that would be a success.
I think so.
So this is something that's already been implemented,
We are
just started.
just starting, like, we are still working on even the referral form of like what it would look like to ask for help.
And this is for all students, not just kids with IEPs or.
It's all
It's for, in
students.
all needs, right?
Mhm.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah, so if you have a student, I mean, if you have a student who's not coming to school and you don't. You don't know what to do, or you're not, like this student might need transportation issues, there might. You would put it through the MTSS referral. And then we would get together and we would have a meeting and we would talk about like, do we need to find some services for this family? Like, is there something we need to do? Do we need to, get together with ESD and see what else we can offer them? Like, it can be literally anything that's impacting the student's ability to be successful at school.
So I'm assuming other schools are doing this system too already.
Washington has a big statewide push, for it to be implemented next year. And as far as like, I can't speak for nationally, but in the Pacific Northwest, like this was my full job at the school I was at before, so
Okay, so.
I'm familiar.
So, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you really, you approve of yours then?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's game changing.
Yeah.
Cause it's data driven, like, right, then everything that you're doing becomes a data driven decision.
Take that out of guesswork out of it.
And so this is just as much for high achieving.
It meets the needs of every student, and it creates a more transparent system, right? Because we have actual data I can bring to you, data we can give to parents, data we can have in professional learning communities with the teachers sitting around a table being like, this is working. Like, right, like, this is working, like, let's duplicate it. We have actual data that we can discuss and talk about and really move things forward.
So for kids that need extra help,
Mhm.
well, or both ends, anyone. Does this provide them, parental kind of help to, you know, for them to engage and communicate kids along?
The MTSS framework itself is designed to be handled within the school.
Okay.
So I personally believe that the more the school can handle, the better, because outside of the school, families have different levels of resource and capacity. And the more we push families past their capacity, the less beneficial it can be, and we don't always know what that is.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at it that way, but for those that want to, you know,
Yeah,
help
so,
and can.
we do have, we do have things that families can do.
Okay.
That's another one of the benefits of iReady.
That's,
Is
that's
that,
basically, I think, what I was asking.
yeah, and, iReady does have a personalized pathway that, students can access at home as well.
So the implementation of the iReady program could be one of the goals as well. And if we did that, what goal can we have, or what would be a good goal in relationship to reading?
For, well, iReady is currently only math
Right, so what can we do about reading?
in conjunction so to partner with the math.
You know, to get kids to be able to read.
Well, I think that's really where the MTSS framework, I think that's gonna be the thing that's driving our literacy.
So it'll show us what action we need to take if we need different curriculum or if other needs that we have. Cause I don't know if we know why our children aren't learning to read.
Would it be helpful to have, parents and other people of the community come in, volunteer time to sit down and speak with him? Would that be helpful?
I would wanna talk to the teachers before answering that question.
Okay.
Because. I mean, it potentially, yes, but not, it would have to work within when is the best time. We wouldn't want a student to miss instruction, right? I do think that having a reading curriculum would support teachers in a way where they would have the ability to dig deeper into the planning as opposed to looking for things. So yes, having ready reading would support teachers teaching deeper as opposed to having to resource things. So that's the benefit of it. We can address where we're at with literacy instruction without it. It will be harder, but we can. Next year, I definitely would love to have ready reading as well. Like ideally, if we had both from a data perspective, from a student perspective, from a family perspective, from a teacher perspective, having a more streamlined look and process and having things that just hand to teachers to teach as opposed to having them have to source it would be really great. But we aren't going to be able to give them that reading curriculum until next year. As far as being able to identify what students need to know this year, we can do that and we can address where they're at this year. But the gap we're facing right now isn't something we can close in 1 year. It's just
When you say next year, are you referring to next fiscal year or?
school year, yeah.
Does the school encourage the kids to come in the library and check out books and read them?
We don't have a librarian.
I was just gonna
Miss
say,
Talbot uses the library.
shelves are bare, the books are still stacked up there from last year. We're not even trying.
Where you have the bookmobile,
Yeah, the kids
Still-
check out the books on Friday from the bookmobile. We're rearranging the library. That's part of why we were there. We're making it more kid friendly in here. It's a, uh. Big process.
Yeah, I'm
I
looking
know
at the
the
top
books
shelf
were
and they're like,
piled up
those
there
look like
last
books
year.
for kids about this tall.
Yeah, it is. It's a big project that it's gonna take a minute. We're gonna move a lot of the resource books out of here. It's a big project. It'll take a minute. But kids are checking books from the Multnomah County Library on Fridays. They do that every Friday. It's fantastic. Robbie, you help a lot of the students go down. How many books would you say the average student is checking out?
They're getting 2 to 5 books,
Oh,
Each week?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's a
audio
lot of
books
movement.
and books out of the bookmobile, it's a truck.
I wanna see
outfitted.
this being used.
and I know that one of the classrooms, and I think it's 3 through 5, that has a huge collection of books in the room. Too. But what I'm wondering about is the gaps, because I can see that the gaps would be significant within students in grade. But I don't know how significant within students in a classroom it is. And right now, when you say, and I don't remember what word you used, but we're not using a curriculum throughout the district for reading. Teachers themselves are developing their method of teaching, and they're developing what the kids need right now on their own.
they're having to source a lot of their instruction. And that is, I mean, like, that's, it's work, but it's also fine, because they're doing it aligned to the Common Core standards, right? Which is, so even when you have a curriculum, often teachers will supplement it. So they have things that they like to use that they're using, like Jennifer has things that she's used year after year after year that she's using, and it's working. And like, Bridget is pulling things together from where she's taught before, or like resources where I'm like, oh, here, try this. And, so it is working. Having a curriculum would be better. Piloting 2 brand new curriculums in 1 year would be really hard. Like, that would be, it's hard enough to try to do 3 grades of math in, like, at the same time. So trying to learn a math curriculum, learning a new math curriculum and doing 3 grades in 1 classroom is really, that's really hard. Like, that's gonna take a while just to get a grasp on how to do that. Because even Curriculum Associates, the company that does iReady, when we meet with them, we're like, so how do we do 3 grades at one time? And they're like, we don't know. They're like, it's not common. So even the people who wrote the curriculum have not seen it enough to really give us guidance on how to do it. So we're trying to put that together. So we do want to be mindful of like how much we're putting on teachers' plates at once, while making sure that we support students and continue to move them forward.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what Jennifer, when she first mentioned the iReady math, it was like the test here, not even knowing whether it'd be something that would be continued. And so, there's your one teacher point of view.
yeah, and it is starting to work, like, it is starting to work, like, it takes a little bit of time, like, right, like, and like anything that's brand new, it takes a little bit of time to
Mhm.
get your
Makes
feet
sense,
under.
and that's why I think she wanted,
Yeah,
So
1 year. And,
are the teachers approaching it with a, like, open and good
Yeah.
attitude and they like it?
yeah,
Great.
so, Bridget and I just sat down and mapped out where she's gonna be through the end of January,
That's awesome.
to make sure that we are closing some gaps and aligning 3, 4, and 5 in a way that makes sense. Kind of pulling them together for a little bit and then splitting them back off. In the way the curriculum is gonna align, and then we realize that next year We should have done that earlier in the year, but we didn't know because we've never done it before, right? So now when we map out next year, we can be a little bit more forward thinking and know exactly where we can pull the grades together for the standards that line up really well. And where we can kind of teach them more in small group versus full group. And I read really good for that because it tells you, like, the fifth grade curriculum will tell you. Well, so fifth grade lesson 6, when you open the teacher's manual, it says. The prerequisite to this is fourth grade lesson 17. So then you go to fourth grade lesson 17 and it says the prerequisite to this is third grade lesson 12. So you could literally put all 3 of those together and teach that concept at the same time and differentiate it. So it is user friendly, it just, we need to get our feet under us.
Well, on Bill's question, are the kids taking the books home, do you think? Okay, so the big thing is that, you know, are they enjoying it at home and are parents reading with them? That's a huge opportunity.
I mean, I think that runs the entirety of it. So,
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
So when I was in school, we used to have to check out a book every week and do a book report. Do they do that stuff now?
we have one classroom that does, book reviews. The students do a book review and then they're posted so that their peers know, other like peer recommended books and what they're like. Another classroom has to do book reports. So yeah, there's a lot of really great literacy happening in the building.
So anything else we could use in writing a goal for reading besides looking at implementing a curriculum next year?
I would like to, so I would really like to make a lot of goals this year about creating sustainable systems. And so, in kind of alignment with MTSS, I would like to set a goal for, implementing a core phonics screener along with benchmarking.
Phonics
A
screener.
core phonics screener.
Explain that, please.
It, it is, so right now, we are just testing just the basics. We're testing some fluency, some comprehension, and we're moving on. It doesn't really tell us what the problem is. It's like going to the mechanic and the mechanic going, yeah, your car is making a noise, and then sending you on your way.
Yeah.
The core phonics screener is actually diagnosing the problem. So if you have a student who is not reading well, like not reading fluently, then this would dig in and identify where the problem is. And I want us to commit to doing it. It is more time consuming,
I
it
was
will
gonna
take
say,
training.
intense,
It
yeah.
will take, you know, the paras will need training in order to do it. But it is, the students deserve it and it's worth the time investment. Because what it will do is it will identify exactly where the learning gaps are, and then kind of going forward, we can look at doing a literacy model that is bringing kids together into those tier 2 groups that might even pull like second grader with a third grader into a group because they have the same skill gap. Because we'll know that they're struggling with variant vowels. Like down to that, and then we can have a kindergartner and a first grader in a reading group because we know that they're struggling with, you know, long vowels that are vowel consonant E. Like it will tell you exactly where they're at. And then we might have another group in middle school that are reading a specific set of texts because they're struggling with multisyllabic words. being able to have really targeted interventions means that we're actually working on what the problem is. We're not just working, we're working smarter, not harder. So if we invest in getting our staff trained and ready to do that, then moving forward, we can start next year hitting the ground running and putting students where they need to be really trained.
What does that make the kids feel like when they're in third grade? Like down in the first grade group?
Oh, they wouldn't go like into the classroom, they would come out, like, it would be, they would just get to go to like reading group with Miss Robbie. With like their friends.
Well, a lot of these classes too already have K first and second all in one
Yeah.
classroom.
I
So
know,
they're not gonna know the
you know,
difference.
it's probably got
Yeah.
third grade reading group, second grade and first.
Yeah.
If,
Not
I'd be kind
necessarily.
of embarrassed if I was in third and got put in first.
well, we would be, you wouldn't wanna take like a fifth grader, and put like, right, you would do, they'd be. Look for
Close.
very close grades, right? So you wouldn't wanna take a first grader and a fifth grader, but if it's a second grader and a third grader, they were in class together the year before. They're not far enough apart that they couldn't come out and go into an intervention group together.
So would this system, does this system look at dyslexia as an issue? And how do school districts look at dyslexia learning issues?
I can look more into answering that question. I don't
Okay.
feel like I'm qualified to answer that off the top of my head.
I would imagine that it sounds to me like the system will kind of at least help kind of narrow out the dyslexia, the ADHD, the different issues that a lot of these kids have. So-
It identifies what students need academically and targets that skill. And in my experience, the more you hone in on what students need, the smoother everything becomes, right? Like, when students aren't having their needs met, it stirs up so many things that the more we can just really meet them where they're at
Yeah.
and give that to them, the better the entire system runs.
So this is another program, is that correct?
It's an assessment that it will take training for the staff to be able to implement, and it'll take scheduling.
I'm mostly curious about the cost. What
It's
is it?
free.
Oh, it is.
I have it.
Oh, perfect then.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
We'll have to run some copies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take paper and ink,
Arguments. done,
Paper and
right?
ink, yeah.
paper and ink.
And to Bill's concern, this is going way back. You can tell how old I am. Back in the sixties. I was back east. And they had an ungraded school. To where the kids just, wherever their level was, that's the group they were with. It's not probably as big a concern as, as you think with the kids. They want to learn. And if they're in a group that's way too far above them, it's not fun for them.
Yeah, I get that.
So to get, to just move at your own pace and work your way up.
I was
It's
just,
not.
I was
you know,
thinking more like your peers, you're in fourth grade, you're going down to second grade reading, and everybody else that's in fourth grade with you. Going with second grade.
So the same note, so I went through the fifth grade in a private Seventh Avenue school.
Mhm.
So in the sixth grade, going into sixth grade, I went into public school. So the first thing I did was they tested me. So I tested in the 11th grade and everything except math. I'm in the 12th grade. So I'm sitting there in the sixth grade going, you're freaking kidding me. I learned this back in second grade. So that was so detrimental to me. So there's multiple ways you can look at the exact same problem. So even being the smart kid, so here you wind up with a really smart kid, but you're in a classroom and that kid is being held back because he is way smarter. Kisden Rowe was a perfect example. His parents were, both. They were. Can't think of the name of it. But anyways, Kisden Rowe, he grew up with his parents that were, teaching him, they were way beyond. That kid was way beyond everybody else. When I came in here and was, teaching, was putting on a presentation for high power. Kisden Rowe is asking about the molecular structure of the atom. And I'm sitting, and he's in fourth grade. I had to tell him, wait until after everybody is done and you and I can talk. So,
There is another aspect to this whole thing too, is that you, if you put them in such a higher level,
yeah,
behaviorally,
yeah,
you might have a problem.
Sounds like
In
you
that
would need like
case, there
multiple
was,
tiers
right?
of support.
One of the things that we do, Bill, to help this is. It's, the classes, everyone's moving, like, right, so when we do these groups, everybody is going somewhere. Like, it's not, the class isn't doing something and then we just pluck a kid out. Everybody is rotating into a group. So some kids are going to this table, some kids are going to this table, some kids are going to this table, and some kids are coming out and going into the room, this room over here. So they don't really see necessarily who's going where, and it changes. It doesn't say that, it's not static all year either, right? So like, as kids change and we test 3 times a year, so after winter, it could change, it might look different, kids' needs change, or depending on what skill we're working on, it might adjust. So that's, that third grader and that second grader might be in a group together for a 6-week cycle. But when we look at the data, it might change, so it's not,
the first
It
grader
doesn't
might
jump
move on,
out.
the third grader stuck.
it doesn't
Well, it
jump
does
out
by
as.
subject too.
Yeah.
They
I'm not
might be high in
objective
one
to
level,
what you're trying to
subject
do, I was
you
just
know.
bringing up the thought of, you know, is it gonna put them in a weird situation?
I was that student. I was that student who couldn't read all the way through high school. And I was well aware of what reading group I was in. I was well aware. And so it is something that I try to be really mindful of when we set up our systems, that everybody is moving, so nobody realizes what's going on. Like, we don't say, and you're in the low, like, if you're not in the low group, you're in the purple group, like, right, you're in the yellow group, like, there are no names, it's colors, or maybe it's an animal, but we're not.
I was
We're
that
not
kid too. I sat there and stared out the window wishing I was outside. I didn't even care for school.
Yeah.
You can probably
But-
tell.
But in the same respect, that same student that might struggle in one subject might be above other kids in another subject.
That was exactly.
And so everybody has their strengths and weaknesses.
I was high in math and science and
Yep,
low in
there you
reading, so
go.
it's all over now.
Yeah, I was just trouble all the way through the 5th grade. I was just surrounded by some really smart kids.
I do
I
have
was the dummy out of them though.
I do have one other goal that I would like to propose, and I would like to propose a goal about, community outreach. And just, I'm not really sure how to word it, but, something around, ensuring the community has access and,
To what?
to me.
Oh,
Yeah, like, feels like I am available for.
Right.
Comment and like, for communication.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly how we would wanna word that, but. I think that's an important goal.
And I think that is a huge challenge, because, you know, a lot of parents, both parents are working, so a daytime event doesn't work, evening has children. And so I think, a media is something that we could talk about. So we need to, make sure we're capturing all the things, ideas people have come up with, so we can come up with a first draft.
I have
Yeah.
one other question based on what you've said. We're rolling out a standardized, like the iReady for math this year. You're talking about doing something for reading or language arts next year, would that mean that we have a plan in place by the end of the year, that you're gonna be rolling out the next year, or have something selected and in place, or is that not what you're?
I haven't researched it enough to
Good
say
know.
yes.
Okay.
I haven't had enough conversation with staff to know if they're gonna feel ready. I know what ultimately what I would like to do, but if they're feeling like starting another new curriculum in consecutive years is too big of an ask, then that would be completely understandable. So I think we need to give them more time to get their feet underneath them with math before we can really decide if it's reasonable to add on
The following year,
the following year.
when do you think you would be ready to make a recommendation on that front?
Spring. Yeah, like near spring break.
We probably should have a placeholder in the budget. And part of that probably would be teachers. Do they feel that they really need that? Or would it be beneficial? Go ahead, Diane.
About when you were talking about making yourself accessible, are you talking a group setting, or are you talking one-on-one? What are you talking?
Well, I
For
mean,
parents and, you know,
Or both.
I think
Oh,
both.
okay.
I think whatever is needed, right? So, we're starting, like an open forum, like coffee chat every other month in the morning, and then the alternating month, like a tea talk in the afternoon, starting.
Yeah, I
this
just
month.
wondered
So-
because you mentioned group, then I wondered, because some parents would maybe not feel comfortable in a group setting, but.
But also like, I want parents to feel like if they email me or call me, that I'm responsive. Right? Or if they're like, can I meet with you, that they feel like that's an option and they are happy with. Maybe not always the outcome, because I'm not gonna make everyone happy every time, but at least that I'm available to them.
I would imagine your cell phone is already on the website, the school website. No. Well,
Email is,
My
But-
email is,
well, I'm just wondering if you should get a designated phone for the school and put that phone number. And that way, when you're available, you can pick it up, and when it's not, if you're not, then just don't answer.
I wasn't
Turn it
sure
off.
if it would work at my new house.
Lisa could screen calls.
It
for you
does
as
now.
well, yeah.
So you're worried about your cell phone working at your,
It took a little bit of work to get things working.
so I have an extra antenna specifically for my cell phones.
Yeah, we weren't sure if that's what we were,
Maine is kind of a dead area when, for the county and state, you
it's rough.
go through there, even radios, no work response down there.
I can't get my GPS to work on my house.
So you still got a few minutes before it starts. So, I wanted to ask you, when is the next, community thing that's going on? Cause it's November, Thanksgiving,
Community what?
well, there was like a Halloween party.
Winter concert, I think.
We have we'll have our November assembly,
November,
All
December.
school assembly, right?
the last day before Thanksgiving break, there'll be a school assembly. Like we did,
Okay, is that where the parents and everybody comes into?
we have not, we haven't invited parents to the school
I'm
assemblies.
going to some.
I know, I feel like you want them to be there, would you?
Well, what I'm after is trying to present to, it's about the fire department. We need people on the fire department, and if we do something where people are here.
That would probably be and that would probably be the winter assembly.
Is that a music thing, or is that just assembly?
Well, it's gonna be the gingerbread house competition with a celebrity guest judge. who I think I have secured, but I'm not comfortable speaking in a public meeting about who it is. But I think I have secured a celebrity judge. But that would be the next time that we would have like everyone come in.
But I'm just hoping that we can do something for them.
That would be great.
So is there a music thing at all?
There is a winter concert
Winter
in the
okay.
evening, yeah. But that's more just like a concert, but if you're thinking like an opportunity for them to come and talk, like to look for, like to.
Yeah.
A little elevator speech, that would be the,
Cause they could even be 16, 17-year-old kids.
yeah, so that would be more the December assembly. The November assembly. We're gonna do character awards and. We haven't talked about it as a staff yet. But we'll probably invite the parents of the students who are getting a character award for the K-8, but not like the greater.
Well, like exemplifying strong character or just like their character.
Gratitude, the character traits of gratitude.
Okay, before we end this, we need to make sure that we have on our first draft, a goal related to any identified needs with PCIA, such as maintaining our PCIA is a viable academy with our partner school. And that we're addressing the needs of both students and instructors. So let's make sure that's on our list.
Okay. And also, reviewing, graduation and.
Graduation. I had relationships, respect, and graduation requirements, so.
Yeah, both, high school diploma and a.
Okay. HST.
So we're gonna do that 5 o'clock workshop for a while, a couple months, or
We can.
I just need to try to remember it.
I know.
We'll call you.
Okay, yeah, just call me a half an hour ahead of time. So.
We just noticed you were here and I said, call.
Yeah.
So why don't we get something drafted that goes out to everyone, so everyone can provide comments back to you before we meet again?
Okay,
Because that's not in violation of our public meeting, because we're not making any decisions and doing any voting on this.
Just a
That's
workshop.
input to the principal, not to the board.
Right.
Or superintendent principal, not the board.
Can we take a little break before we go into?
Yeah, let's take a quick, thank you for coming, everyone. We're gonna take a quick break here. We just finished up our workshop on discussion of goals and objectives for our superintendent principal. It's the first of several discussions, or at least one more discussion. So,
Thank you
My
for
goodness,
showing
I
up
see where
on time,
water
and
bottle.
we're leaving now.